at the command center, the Electoral Commission's Forum of SADC countries. He's the leader of the forum who is here observing the election, Mr. Mphasa Mokhochane from Lesotho. He's also the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Lesotho. Mphasa, thank you so much for talking to ZTN Prime.
Thanks, man.
Right, let's go back a bit, shall we? When, for example, did the forum come to Zimbabwe? And also, most particular, what was your mandate given to when you came?
Let me put it this way. For this mission now, we came on the 16th of this month. But in April, we were here as the mission. But in that time, we were making a pre-assessment mission where we wanted to see whether ZEC was ready, prepared for holding this election. And then we went back home, and then we have come to observe.
Okay.
So we arrived here on the 16th.
Okay. Now, I know it's well. First of all, I suppose I could ask you who is in the forum and how many delegates. I suppose is an easier question.
The easiest way is that we have a delegate of 38 people from all the different countries of SADC, where there are election commissions.
Okay.
So we are presented here.
So what is the difference? 'Cause I know there is a SADC election observer mission here, and then there's the forum SADC. What's the difference between the two?
Okay. The difference is that ourselves, we are from the electoral commissions in those countries. Okay. So that's how we are different from the mother body, SADC itself. So we are the election proprietors in our countries.
Okay. Right.
So
you're almost like the chairperson of ZEC here in your country.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that's interesting, because that must also mean that you're coming with ideas of how elections are run in each of your countries, and you're sort of looking at ours as well. Is that sort of a nice way of looking at an election, to sort of compare or to say, this is how we do it, what's new here, what's different here?
The important thing is that as a peer group, we support each other. Where they have problems, we encourage them that, why don't you make reforms to certain things, such like things. Okay. So we learn from each other. We are supporting them because we are from the same forum.
Now, obviously, there's a difference. There's observers and there's monitors. Now, you are what are you?
Observers.
You're observers, and so
monitors take longer time, and monitors again are from in the country, not from outside. Okay,
so you're an observer. So your mission is to observe what's happening.
Yes.
So let's talk about what do you need to observe? Let's talk about the pre-election, which is the campaigning area. What do you need to observe, and where did you go around the country?
With the pre-assessment mission that we had, we're looking whether, because there was demarcation of the boundaries, constituency boundaries, there was voters' roll, there was whether the ZEC has been given enough funding to run the elections, and the training manuals, were they there? How is the communication between ZEC and stakeholders, in particular the political parties, the non-governmental organization, the media? What is the relation? What will be the mood of the election that we are coming to? Have people been given chance to go to the polling station, see their names that are going to appear on the voters' roll? So those were the things that we had come for. Now,
as observers, of course, I need to ask you directly, you were not ever stopped or hindered to go anywhere. You were free to go anywhere you wanted, speak to anybody you wanted. That there was no issues with that?
Definitely, there was no issue with that.
Okay.
So we have met everybody. We even met with political parties. They put their point of view in relation to the elections. So we met with everybody.
Perfect. And did you even speak to Zimbabwean voters, to just Zimbabwean citizens, and have a chat?
Individual on the street. We talked to them. How do you see this election? Because surprisingly, when we came at that time, it was so quiet in May. Everybody was quiet, and then we were even asking ourselves, are you going to have election, guys? No, the point was that we are waiting for the president to proclaim the date, then you will see.
We actually interviewed your counterpart from Palestine, and he said to me, Andy, I hate to say this, but I can call this a boring election, because everything was going so smoothly. And I thought it's good to be boring sometimes.
Exactly.
Now, I want to ask you this, because obviously it is very topical in Zimbabwe, and that was the issue of peace and security. Because previous elections, of course, 2018 we can point to, and even elections before then, Zimbabwe has suffered, unfortunately, bouts of violence, particularly around the election time. What is your impression as chairperson of the forum to the peace and security situation prevailing during this campaigning period?
The first thing that we see is there is peace. To us coming here, there were the last rallies. And then our people went to those political parties' rallies and they observed them, and everything was conducted peacefully. So one would say these elections, they have started on a good note of peace.
I suppose, asking you, I mean, looking at with your hat on as the electoral boss in Lesotho, why is peace and security so important for democratic election?
Peace is important because if people are fighting, no one will go to the polls because people will be afraid of going to the polls. And now that will make the election not fair, not free, because there are those now who would say, I'm not going, I fear what is going to happen to me, you see. So now, peace in the country is the opening for free and fair elections because everybody will be going willingly with no fear. Yes.
That takes me to our next question. I always ask this, and I've been asking all the observer heads that I've been talking to, is what is a free and fair election? And one of them said, well, we now add credible, and of course you yourself said to me just now off camera, transparent as well. So free, fair, credible, and transparent. Can you actually explain to our viewers exactly what that is? I mean, how do you then say at the end of everything, this was free, fair, credible, and transparent?
Elections are free if the playing field is leveled. If all political parties, they appear on the radio stations, they are not prevented equally, then we say they are free.
Okay.
Fair. Be fair because everybody is given the chance to vote. In some countries, we find that people are being forced. It's illegal not to vote. You see? So in that case, it's not free. They are not fair. They are being forced by the legal instrument. But here, we can count whether they are fair because there are no people being prevented to go and vote. So it's when now we use those terms, free and fair. Now we come to transparent. They are transparent in the sense that everything that is done, take for example in a voting station, there are party agents representing the political party. Everybody is given a fair chance to see what is happening. They are given the ballot paper. That ballot paper is equally measurable to each individual because a vote for one person counts. Thank you.
Definitely. I mean, particularly when the presidential election is 50% plus one vote. Exactly. The one vote, which could count. It could be mine. Yeah. Now, right. Let's now get to polling day, the 23rd of August, and of course, out of the 10 provinces, 8 of them relatively calm. It seemed to go peacefully. It seemed to go well. In fact, peace was there throughout the whole country. I'm talking now about the electoral process, the voting process, between 100 and 85% in 8 constituencies. But of course, the concerns were raised about Bulawayo and particular Harare, where only 23% of the polling stations opened at 7 a.m. And the rest, in fact, some only opened late at 7 p.m. in the evening. And the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission stated that it was because of non-delivery of ballots based on court cases. Maybe you could take us through your impressions of polling day, of voting day.
Polling day. Our teams, we managed to deploy our teams in 5 provinces, and on polling day we visited those polling stations, and then when you arrive on the polling station, it was peaceful, and then when you meet with the polling officers, they managed the process quite well. They were well trained, ready for the day, and then when we go around, and then it's where we get disappointed, because we find now some stations, more especially in Harare West, they were not opened. And then when we want to find out what happened, we find that the problem is that the ballot paper for the local authorities were printed, and in some polling stations, they were also delivered. But now, when they get there were court cases which were delayed to give the person who is responsible to stand for that ward. And now when that court case was finalized, is when the names are coming. And unfortunately, ZEC has already printed the ballot papers. So those ballot papers, they had to be recalled. So that printing should start again with the name of the person now which the court has said is the right person to be represented that ward. So that is the delay that happened.
Interesting enough, this is probably the first time I've heard this description. So let me just recap that.
Yeah.
So in essence, ZEC did print the ballots, and in most cases they delivered the ballots to the polling stations.
Exactly.
But of course the problem then came in that the candidates were then saying, well, we are still at court, so we should be on the ballot or not. And then if they won, then obviously now the ballots were wrong. So ZEC had to withdraw them, reprint, and re-deliver those ballot papers. So this is all about logistics and about the court cases and people being put on the ballot.
Correctly. And you would ask me, where do I get this? It's because now we are from a meeting with ZEC, because we wanted to know what happened. So they tell us that, no, we had printed some ballot papers, but now because of those litigations that which are not finalized, is then that we have to withdraw them, those ballot papers, and then we reprint the next one.
Now,
but the important thing that happened, which we appreciate as an observer mission, is that, so by that, you will be denying the people in those wards or voting stations not to vote. An important thing is that a proclamation was given to extend voting up to this day, meaning that now we are bringing that thing of equal to everybody to make the election again fair.
So what do you say then to some parties, and who then say, well, the problem is, of course, is that as these people waited sometimes 7, 8, 9 hours, they went home, and so you may find that their supporters went home because they couldn't wait. Well, what would you say to comments like that?
Yes, the point is that it was unfortunate for those people. They woke up in the morning yesterday, they wanted to vote, but they voted late. Some maybe they started their voting today. It is unfortunate, but we are saying let them use the chance that was provided to them, that 24 is another voting day. So a chance was given to them. So it is important that political party, when they heard that a proclamation extending the voting, they have to push their people to go and vote, to exercise their right.
Now let's talk about ZEC itself, and in terms of the organization, the logistics, the ballot papers, the security, the safety, the political agents in polling stations. And I know obviously you're highly experienced, being the boss of your own electoral commission in Lesotho. What do you think about that area? Because of course some of the opposition parties complained about the postal votes. They complained about the security, that there was possibly a possibility of rigging. How did you look at the ZEC process? Did you find that ZEC process adequate and auditable and sufficient for an election?
Yes, I think the point that the ballot paper up to now, no one has had that the ballot paper that have been thrown on the street, or somebody is having a possession of a ballot paper. So that means all that ballot paper have been secured. And then if they have been secured up to this point, it makes those elections credible.
All right. Okay, so now the polling stations, obviously some of them, the polling stations that didn't vote yesterday, which are open today, carried over, which of course was done under a statutory instrument by the president of Zimbabwe, Mnangagwa. Of course, remember, he's still president until the new president's inaugurated at a date to be set in the future, if it's him or it could be someone else, but he's still president, he still remains Zimbabwe's president. What now do you do? Because obviously you're now waiting, in essence, for the correlation of the votes. You're waiting for the results. So now the voting is over, end of day today. What then does your forum do?
Okay, now we are told by ZEC that the extension means that they are given to announce the election within 5 days. So now they are saying they are going to count the 5 days from tomorrow.
Oh, okay, because normally they've counted from Wednesday, but because of the extra day, they start counting from tomorrow, which takes us to Tuesday next week, not Monday. That's a very important point.
Okay.
So basically, the Zimbabwe Election Commission has said, under the law, 5 days from the voting day, which is today, which means only on Tuesday is the date where they have to announce by. Of course, they can announce before then if they can. All right, so what are you doing then? Are you then going to be physically at the command center monitoring what's going on? What do your 38 members do in the next 5 days?
Yes, we'll be here to observe even the announcement up. Our team are leaving on the 30th, but we are going to leave a small contingency to see further what is happening. Yes, because sometimes you find that elections, after elections, something comes out. But we wish the atmosphere that we see now should continue even after the elections. Thank you.
Well, I think that's my last question because I have to wrap up. But it's clear, it's obviously because a lot of Zimbabweans it happened before violence happened after the presidential announcement. So in a way, you're still engaging, you're still preaching the message of calm, peacefulness, so we have credible, free, fair, and transparent elections.
Definitely, we are saying to the Zimbabweans, what they have shown us from people outside Zimbabwe, they are mature. Let them continue, Zimbabweans, continue with that majority, accept the outcome of the result so that the country goes forward. Thank you.
So thank you so much for talking to us. I hope I will catch up with you. Of course, over the next few days, we'll have a catch up and see what's happening and give your impressions.
Definitely.
It's a pleasure talking to you.
My
and I
pleasure.
love your country, by the way. Well, there you have it. He's the leader of the delegation of the SADC forum, electoral forum. This is basically an observer mission set up of all the election bodies in SADC. It's very separate to the SADC, because there is a SADC observer mission as well, which is made up politically, I suppose, of ministers and so forth and representatives. But this is specifically for chairman of election agents in SADC who have come as a committee to come and monitor and, in fact, to observe Zimbabwe's elections. Well, that's it for me. I, of course, will be coming back later with more interviews as we get more observers and speak to them. But right now, it's back to the studio.